great, but before those, this is going to be a great show as well. We have on Skype Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson was here last April. We had him for an hour and a half, 2-hour show, and that show, Tommy, that show had more views than any show in 4 marathons put together. So that was up, I think, close to 6,000 views a few months ago. And unfortunately, somehow it got deleted. We don't know how. And God's providence, you were not able to make it last night. So we re-uploaded your show to YouTube, and it's a hit already, once again. So anyone who didn't know that Tommy was coming on and you hadn't seen that show, it was technically new for them. But we have Tommy here live once again, and we have him for an entire hour to continue his story. So if you didn't see part 1, which is called The Islamization of the United Kingdom, please go to Trinity Channel's YouTube channel later on today or tomorrow and watch that video, because you'll be able to hear Tommy talking for about an hour and a half about what the UK was like when he was growing up, what it is like now, and then also what he's been through personally. So he's back today, and this show is called Tommy Robinson, Enemy of the State. If you do not have his book, then please go to Amazon and pick it up, either paperback or if nothing else, it's available in Kindle version. But you can go to his website and buy it as well. This is his autobiography. It tells you about what he has been through. And a lot of people already know about Tommy, but I'm going to give him an introduction just in case you haven't heard of him. Tommy Robinson is the founder and ex-leader of the English Defense League, which was formed in 2009. Since leaving the EDL, he has become an avid speaker on the problems in the Western world with the rise of extremism, Islam, ISIS, hate speakers, and Sharia. In early 2015, Tommy was a guest speaker at the Oxford Union. And last December, he published his autobiography entitled, as I said, Enemy of the State. And if you ever want to feel frustrated for some reason, this is the book to read, because you're going to read all about what Tommy has been through, as he is a Paul Revere type figure over there in the UK, making people aware about what's going on. So we're going to get into this show during this next hour and what he's been through. And Tommy, I was rewatching the end of the last show when you were here in April, and I remember you talking about America and what it is like here and how America is heading in your direction, the direction of the UK. And this is the time that people need to be aware, they need to wake up, and this is why it's such a blessing to have you here as like a bullhorn coming from the UK to the US to let them know what we have the potential for. So, Tommy, thank you for coming back once again.
No, thanks a lot. And a good way of looking at it in America, a good way to look at it is if you look at it in the stages of cancer. Yeah. America's at stage 1. The UK and Europe are at stage 4. When you get cancer early, you have to treat it, you have to attack it, and the earlier you find it, the better equipped you are to defeat it. America has to. You have to wake up, or you'll be left in a situation that we're left in now. And currently, it sounds unbelievable to many people who can't really understand what's happening, how it's happening, and just how quick it will happen. Yeah. That's the really shocking thing. How at the click of your fingers, you will turn around and your community is gone. Your freedoms have been taken. Your ability and the challenge you face ahead is so big and so huge. That's what we face now. We face that in Europe. We've allowed that to happen. Our leaders have let that happen. We've become so infected, and Islam has got such a grip on us. Political correctness plays a huge role in this. Without political correctness and without a complete far-left apologist media and government that are helping to equip Islam and helping it to spread, then that's really where America's at. You're at stage 1, we're at stage 4. But you have to wake up, because what you don't, as I said, you don't understand how quickly it changes. I can look at my community. I can look at estates. I went to an estate today that I grew up in, and just within 6 years, there's change in the area so quickly, so fast. And with the current climax, especially if Hillary Clinton gets in with the immigration, with the influx of so-called refugees, the spread will accelerate.
And Tommy, I definitely want you to feel free to share any specific information that you want to share. I do have a number of questions that we came up with to ask you, just to let people know, give them a little preview of what is in your book. But definitely, if there is new updated information, I'm just probably going to stick this right here so people can see. But if there is new updated information, then we want you to share that as well. And we only have 1 hour for the show. Last time we had you and another speaker to take up the hour and a half. So technically you were on for an hour. But, if we need to, I'm just letting people know, we have his hour and a half video on YouTube. So it's available. That is part one. So Tommy, I want to ask you a few questions about the info that you have in your book. And like I said, if you tell me right now, hey, Tony, let me just give you an hour of new information, we can do that too. So let me know. Let me know what you want to do.
Since finishing that book, which I honestly thought once I exposed everything that's gone on, then the level that the state are putting on me may lessen. How wrong was I? I'm in court this Monday. I face court again this Monday. Now, I'm in court because the police have come to my house. I've committed no crime. They've come into my house. There's a video of them coming into my house. My children were crying and screaming. The police are here, Daddy. I've gone down. I'm in court where they're attempting to give me an exclusion zone from my own town. So for 5 years, I will not be allowed into my own town centre, my own train station. I actually am getting given a map in these court proceedings, and this map specifically highlights the roads and the names of the roads in my own town I'm born and bred in that I will not be allowed to enter. Yeah? Now, the reason for this, they're not saying I've committed any crime. Yeah. What they're saying is that my ability to bring people who have an anti-Islamic agenda, so this is 1984, this is the thought police. Just in case I may do something, they want an exclusion zone for 5 years, limiting my freedoms for where I can and can't go, which basically, this is a Sharia zone being enforced upon me by our government and our police. And I say our police, but if I give you the details of this, my local police force actually do not support this. This is coming from a unit who are funded by the Home Office. So in the UK, the police and the government are supposed to be separate entities. Yeah? They're not. The government, which one of my legal arguments in court on Monday is an abuse of process argument to say that this is actually the government using legislation and laws that have got nothing to do with any crime he's done, but they are specifically to limit his freedoms based on his political views. Now, again, things like this sound unbelievable, but there's a group in the UK, they're a Christian group, called Britain First. Now, just last month, these same tactics were put against them. They took them to the High Court of England in a civil hearing, and they said they wanted them banned from my town, banned from the whole town of Luton for 3 years, banned from attending any mosques for 3 years. They're not saying they've committed any crime, but these are, and so when Britain First went to fight these charges, which is the same as what I'm doing, they're faced with a legal bill. Now, because it's civil proceedings, if you lose, you have to pay the police's legal bill. So Britain First were faced with something that was already escalated into approximately $30,000 at the first court hearings. So they made a decision where they accepted the conditions being imposed upon them. They didn't fight them. They accepted that they would not enter the entire town of Luton. Now, I'm from Luton. I live in Luton. I'm born and bred in that town. We have a population of 200,000 people. Approximately 70,000 people are Muslim. We have 25 mosques. We are the epicenter for terrorist activity. And it's because of this reason that these conditions are then imposed upon British citizens to prevent any reaction from the religion of peace in our town. Now, I've already spent £4,200. I haven't even got to court. Now, when I get to court on Monday, if I'm unsuccessful, I will then be faced with the charges of the police's bill. If I then appeal them, which in the British system, you go before a magistrate. If you appeal that to a superior court, my charge is then going to tens of thousands of pounds. So what they'll do, which is exactly what they'll do in America, is what they're doing here, where they've tried to unsuccessfully for 6 or 7 years, through all the stories in my book, they've tried persecution, they've tried intimidation, they've tried literally having me killed in prison. Yeah. They've tried all of these things. Now, these things haven't worked, and tomorrow, if I want to, I can walk straight through my town centre. Now, for the police, that simply could provoke a reaction from a hostile Muslim community. So rather than have to deal with that, which we all know they can't deal with that already, at a population of 4% in the UK of Muslims, but in my hometown, 30%. When we get to a population of 30%, the police simply cannot deal with it. So rather than deal with it, rather than attempt to deal with it, rather than face full-scale riots and religious riots, what they'll do is they'll take away the British man's rights and freedoms, which is what they're attempting to do with me on Monday. And when they attempt to do this, of course, in America, you're protected by the First Amendment, different things like this. In the UK, we're not. And we do have certain civil liberties groups, but they won't represent me because they spend all their time representing Muslims. Yeah. So since writing this book, I could write many more chapters. I don't know if you saw yourself, Tony, the incident that happened just last week in the city of Cambridge for my children.
I think I saw the headline. I haven't had the time, though, because I've been preparing for this marathon to read everything about it. I did read. Please fill in our audience, though.
So basically, you can watch this video. If you go on YouTube and put in Tommy Robinson children. So I took my children, which I take them every week. I took them to watch my home football team play, which is part of my life. Some people who don't like football, that's part of my life. Yeah? It's what I did growing up. It's what I want my children to do. So I took them to the city of Cambridge. Now, the chief constable of Cambridge is a Muslim police officer. Okay. Now, I took my children to watch the football. After the football, I've taken them to the fair. I've then gone into a restaurant, public house, to watch another football match and have food. Now, at this point, 10 police officers come into the pub. I'm with my family. And they tell me, you have to leave this city. And this is the whole city. And if you watch the video, I say, why do I have to leave the city? And they say, because you do. You'll be given a form, you're going to be... And then they basically start saying, are you going to leave the city now? If not, you're going to be arrested. And you can hear me pleading with them to say, I'm on a family day out with my children. I'm with my children. What's the problem? They say that we believe, again, the thought police, we believe that if you stay here, there is a potential for violent disorder. I say, violent disorder? I'm with my 3 children who are 5, 7, and 9. Yeah. My 2 friends are with their daughters. We've been to the fair. We're not causing any problems. They then continue. And if you watch the video, I then leave the venue. I get my children. When I get outside, there must be 20 police officers. When I come outside, they have cameras. And my children are crying hysterically. Like, you have to watch the video to really get a grasp. And when you watch the video, I'm very frustrated and very angry at the time because of what they're putting my children through. Yeah. My children are crying, they're hysterical, they're saying, Daddy, why is this happening? What have we done? So we haven't done anything, kids, let's go. They then follow us with a camera, even though they can see how hysterical it's becoming for the children. And when I say, what are you doing? They're saying, we're under orders. Hitler's soldiers were under orders. Yeah? So you still cannot continue to do what you're doing when you know it's wrong. And if you watch the video, in all of the police officers' faces, you can see they know it's wrong. What they're doing is wrong. And this is the level of state persecution just because I dare criticise Islam. Yeah. And again, this is the first time I'm actually looking to take legal proceedings against the police because, for example, my local football team are playing tomorrow. I take my 3 children every week. I've told them we're going tomorrow. They don't want to go. Yeah. They don't want to go because they've been intimidated and scared by the police of our country.
Yeah. Tommy, and please, everyone, check out the video that Tommy's just referred to. Tommy Robinson's Children, type that in addition to watching his last show, The Islamization of the United Kingdom. I do want to touch on a few things that are in your book and a few things that you did talk about last time, just to catch our audience up. Because if people have never heard of you, you're on here talking about, you know, this incident with the police and all that, and some people are probably thinking, well, who is this guy? What's going on? So I do want to get a few of those questions in, but like I said, at the same time, please elaborate and give any new updated information. Your book is called Enemy of the State. Now, can you give a quick, and the things about your book I do want to do quickly so that you can give us new information, but how did you become labeled an enemy of the state? What did you do to where, like you said, the government is looking to you, whether it's because they think you are going to cause someone else to be mad and become violent? I mean, obviously you are not. You're just trying to live your life, and you've been a voice over in the UK. But how did you actually become labeled enemy of the state, and why are they treating you that way? I'm going to kind of combine a couple questions here because, I mean, do the authorities not, the only things I can think of, okay, they either don't realize, they haven't studied Islam, they don't know the end goal, or they're scared about, they're more intimidated by the Muslim community than by you, or they just don't feel like they have any power to do anything, and they're just choosing, oh, you're easier to control than this population of people who we're afraid of. I mean, what's going on?
So you have to understand that in the UK, there's been a huge collusion with government and police to suppress and hide the reality of what's been happening when it comes to the Islamic community. The level of rape, and it's been exposed now. To your viewers, this may be new information, but we've had huge exposés on things like what in the UK they call grooming, like you're cutting dog's hair. Really what it is, it's a rape jihad. Yeah. And it's been happening across the UK. In one small town of Rotherham, we've had 1,400 children as victims. This is spread across the whole entire country. 90% of the men convicted of these crimes in the UK are Muslim males. 20% of those men are called Mohammed. This is, again, from a population of 4%. So why are the police and government doing this? And how have I found myself in this position? I was a normal English working class man growing up in a town plagued with the cancer and the problems from Islam. As I've said, I was 21 years old when I first held my first demonstration. I called it Ban the Loot and Taliban. We've been plagued with this group who called Al-Mujahideen, who are now a prescribed terrorist organisation. But Omar Bakri with the Hook, Abu Hamza, all of their base was in my town. Yeah. Their group, their epicentre was just where I live. Yeah? When the planes hit the Twin Towers on September the 11th, magnificent 19 posters were put up at the shops where I live, glorifying the men that done it. Yeah. Every year when you had the September the 11th minute silence, we had celebrations in the town where I live. So I've witnessed all of these things through growing up. Now, in 2009, we had a soldiers' homecoming parade in the UK, again in my hometown of Luton. Now, the soldiers were attacked. They were attacked by all these radical extremist Muslims. They were spat on. Yeah. They were called baby killers. Now, this provoked me to form an organisation which started as the United People of Luton, which then progressed into the EDL, the English Defence League. It progressed into the English Defence League because we realised this is a national issue. Mm-hmm. What actually happened at that moment, and it becomes so quick, so fast, that I wasn't ready for it. I didn't understand it. But the British public, and in general, all of the public across Europe, have been suppressed and silenced and beaten down. So everyone's been walking on eggshells and being quiet and whispering about the problems, and because you'll lose your job, you'll lose your career, you'll be being classed a racist or a bigot, become as bad as being classed as a paedophile. And they would beat everyone down with this. So basically, you try and talk openly about any of these issues, bang, bang, you're beaten back into that box. Yeah. So we had we was at this stage in 2009 where no one would talk or no one would say anything. Now, here come the English Defence League, headed by me, at the time using a different name, Tommy Robinson, and hiding my identity because I quite enjoyed my freedom. I've since had multiple terror plots on me, multiple violent beatings, government Osman warnings for my life. So that's the reasons for it. So I started this group, and then this group spread like a phenomenon across, not just across England, but in fact, I'm supposed to be in Prague tomorrow. I'm going out to Germany next month. This spread throughout Europe. And before I knew it, within 6 months, the idea and the voice I'd started in Luton had spread to every town and city in the UK. Every group had just come out marching and singing and screaming. And I used to say each demonstration was a cry for help, because all these people at this moment thought, right, this is it. People are talking, someone's saying it. And a lot of people, again, if you look at, the reason why the name Enemy of the State is given is because when I did this, and I didn't plan this, remember, I wasn't politically minded. I wasn't schooled in media. I was just working on a building site. And here, 6 months later, I'm the leader of the biggest street protest movement Europe's seen. And I've got hundreds of thousands of people across the country looking to me. So it's been a complete learning curve for me. I made a lot of mistakes along the time as well. I had a very difficult time adjusting to being Tommy Robinson, rather than being Stephen Lennon, father of three, the family man at home. I'm now the man that people are looking to in England and in Europe to bring this argument. And that's what it did. There was no way anymore. There was no way for the police to hide these issues. Literally, when I say you would have thousands of young English men charging at times through city centres, screaming that our children are not halal meat, screaming that our daughters are being raped, screaming that our women are being abused and the hostility shown towards us. All of the problems that have been suppressed and hidden by government, by police, all of these things that have been hidden down were now banging out, and the world's media were watching. So from the formation of the English Defence League, so much has come to light. So much about the hidden, so much about what the police have done wrong. So why would the government and police take this attitude towards me? Well, I'm the man that's embarrassing them. I'm the man that's going to hopefully cost them their pensions. I'm the man that's exposed what they've allowed to happen to our daughters and our children. And the reason why I've exposed that is because I've lived through it, and we've lived through it. And you don't really have the class system, I believe, in America that we have in the UK. In the UK, when you speak like me, you look like me, you walk like me, and you act like me, you should shut up. That's how we're viewed. You should be silent. But what they don't understand is that when you're bringing in this alien culture, this alien ideology into our country, it's going to the poorest areas. It's us that are going to live with it. It's us that are going to face the brunt of the extremism and the hatred. So, but then because we don't articulate, or because at times, obviously I've grown into this, but at times we haven't articulated why we feel angry and how angry we feel, we've been viewed as thugs at times and hooligans.
Okay, Tommy?
And simply, that's the basics of it.
I understand completely. We have to take a break, so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Folks, while we're on break, please look up his book online. It says right here at the top of the back of the book, The High Price One Man Paid for Exercising His Right to Free Speech. As Tommy is saying, free speech, what is that? It doesn't seem like that we have that here in the UK. We do have that here in America, folks, but this video and the last video that Tommy did in April, which again is available on the Trinity Channel's YouTube channel, The Islamization of the United Kingdom, that gives you a one-sentence background on why we're doing this show and why this book was written, is because of that. So when we come back, I want to ask Tommy, why is this happening over there? Is this a different flavor of Islam that's in the UK? People need to be educated about that answer, but also about Islam in general. So again, look to Tommy Robinson, look to the UK to see the potential, because as America moves further and further away from this the Judeo-Christian principles it was founded upon, it leaves this empty vacuum to be taken over and filled by somebody, and that has been filled by a group of people with a different worldview and a religion that is not just a religion, but a religio-political system. A religion and a political ideology combined, and we are seeing that play out in the UK. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Tommy Robinson.
Live English debate on Monday, October 17th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time between Shabir Ali versus Tony Costa. The topic will be, was Muhammad a prophet of God? Was Paul a disciple of Jesus? If you have any questions, please call the numbers at your screen or visit our website at trinitychannel.com.
Praise the Lord, North Carolina. I'm your native son, Pastor Joseph here, inviting you to watch the one TV channel they don't want you to know about, the Trinity Channel, channel 14.6, WHKY on digital antenna. Finally, the truth about ISIS, terrorism, and the religion of Islam from a biblical Christian perspective. You'll find no political correctness here, just the truth, plain and simple. Scholars, Christian apologists, and former Muslims from around the world all exposing the religion of Islam as the root of so much of the chaos we find our world in today, while at the same time proclaiming Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, as the one and only solution. If you can't get channel 14.6, don't worry. You can watch us live 24/7 at www.trinitychannel.com. Remember the Trinity Channel, the voice of truth crying out in a desert of political correctness.
Trinity Channel is now publicly streaming on Roku. There is no need for a code anymore, and through Roku, you can watch us 24/7 on your TV. You can find us through two ways on Roku. The first way is through the streaming channel category. The second way is by searching for Trinity Channel in your search bar. For more information, please call the numbers at your screen. Live debate on September 22nd between Osama Abdullah versus Usama Dakto. The debate will be held at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the topic will be, what is Islam's view of non-Muslims and the people of the book? For more information, please call the numbers at your screen or visit our website at www.trinitychannel.com.
Friends, welcome back to ABN, the Trinity Channel, for the second International Apologetics Marathon of 2016. We are here doing a 1-hour special show with Tommy Robinson, Enemy of the State. If you didn't get a chance to watch his last show that we did in April, go to the Trinity Channel's YouTube channel. It's called The Islamization of the United Kingdom. It had more views than any other show during the last 4 marathons not put together, but it's a very popular show because people in the UK, a lot of them know about Tommy Robinson. Here in the US, they don't. That's why I suggest picking up his book, Enemy of the State, available on Amazon and also available on his website. Tommy, this is how fast our shows go. It's already half over. We have 30 minutes left to spend with you. So basically, from what I've read in your book and from what I've heard you say, the authorities there, they don't want to be labeled racist or being intolerant or politically incorrect. Plus, of course, if they're getting paid to do their job, then they want to keep pension and all that stuff. They don't want to mess any of that up. They'd rather just persecute, quote unquote, you, who is one individual, versus joining your team and facing what the whole UK is facing right now, right?
You have to understand just how few people there are that are speaking out and criticizing Islam in the UK. It's slowly growing, but in America, you may have influential radio hosts, TV presenters, news broadcasters who say openly and talk openly and criticize Islam. In the UK, we have none. None. So long as they could keep this, from me talking out, by silencing me, they see it as an answer to maybe stopping some of the debate, which inevitably just leads, because this problem is going to come to a head in the end anyway. But it doesn't look like in the UK they have a solution to it, simply just trying to suppress it temporarily. Okay. But yeah, we face huge problems.
So in the UK, there is no freedom of speech, basically?
Oh, freedom of speech is dead. We live in a post-free speech era.
Okay.
Once we understand that, once people understand that, like the society we think we live in. So I thought I lived in a certain country 7 years ago. Yeah. I thought I had rights and freedoms. But I think very differently now. Now I understand the reality we're in. There is no free speech.
Yeah. So, folks, Tommy is a poster boy of a person who has guts to face what he's been facing. Tommy, I remember the last show that we did in April, that day you were in court. And that was the day that people had given money and actually paid for a good attorney for you versus the regular, like, the government provided one. You actually had a good lawyer who, like you said, tore it to pieces, and you were let go. And because you didn't go to jail that day, we were able to do that hour-and-a-half show. And it's a blessing to have you back for this one. Now, you're talking about the Islamization of the United Kingdom. We talked about it on another show this week. A lot of people say, oh, Islam, it's a religion of peace. If Islam's the religion of peace, then countries that are under Sharia, which is Islamic law, should be the most peaceful places in the world. But, but you're talking about the UK, where you have no-go zones, Sharia-controlled zones. So you say in your book, you say, however the world has tried to handle radical Islam so far, it hasn't worked. So now that Islam is growing there, again, Islam's the religion, Muslims are the people, and we care about Muslims. We would pray that all Muslims would come to repentance and faith in Christ. Tommy, you've said yourself, even though it's really growing there, there's still a lot of people who happen to be Muslims who are great people. And it's the same way here in America. The problem is when Muslims try to emulate Muhammad as much as they can, and they follow the primary sources, the Quran, the Hadith, which is a collection of what Muhammad said, did, approved, and disapproved of, and they perhaps read the seerah, the biographical literature of Muhammad, and they try to emulate him, thinking, okay, he's the perfect man, he's the perfect Muslim, so whatever he did must be perfect. So it's like Muhammad sets the moral standard. There's no moral standard that exists outside of him in order to judge him. Like you can't question the prophet. You can't question what he did or what he said or anything like that. So, Tommy, please, people throughout the world who are watching this now and will watch the rerun, what kind of Islam is being practiced there in the UK? Is it a fringe movement that has strayed from true Islamic teachings? Or is it the opposite, that they are closer to true Islamic teachings than your average nominal Muslim here in America or other parts of the world?
Yeah, I'd say that they're more devout, which is why we're facing more of a problem.
Okay.
The exact conversation we're having now, I've just sat and had for an hour on the train with a Muslim gentleman. Nice, lovely fella. Yeah. Lovely fella. Yeah. He was Moroccan. He was trying to argue with me that the problem is Pakistanis, because in Luton, it's a majority Pakistani town. Yeah. So I just had exactly the same question, exactly the same debate. And again, I brought it back to the life of Muhammad and how relevant it is what Muhammad did. And when he tries to live as Muhammad did, when he takes the teachings literally of Muhammad, when you want to live like him, that's when we're going to face a problem. Yeah. And then we're going through things Muhammad did from the biography of Muhammad from Ibn Ishaq. And again, I found when I started getting really in-depth conversation with this Muslim, he didn't know much. Yeah. He didn't really know much. So the negative things his own prophet has done, the things that when I put to him he disliked and wouldn't agree with, he didn't even know. And what I found that so much over the years with Muslims in the UK, with the liberal Muslims, the really what everyone would call a moderate Muslim. Yeah. They don't actually understand the agenda or that much about Islam, least of all that much about what their prophet did in his life. So what we have is what I'd say is the Wahhabists, the Salafists, which are the more devout and the literalists within Islam, who wish to live as Muhammad did. Yeah. That's what we spreaded. And I actually, when I done my Oxford Union talk, it was the co-host who invited me was a Pakistani girl, a Muslim girl. She didn't wear hijab, and she's from Pakistan. Now, she said to me that when she come to Britain, when she went to the Muslim community, she had to run out herself. She's from Pakistan, right? Yeah. She had to run out because of how extreme it was here. And she was explaining to me the back where she lives herself in Pakistan, right. Very liberal, which I said is crazy to try and get your head around. Yeah. But that's where we're at in Europe. That's the Islam. When people talk about this religion of peace, it's the only Islam I see the only Islam I know in my hometown of Luton is an aggressive, hostile, and violent ideology. And again, the majority, not even the majority, but many Muslims, remember, being who I am and living where I live, I have daily interactions every day, the bank, the shop, everywhere I go with Muslims. Some great people. I have great discussions. The debate I had just on the train for an hour was a great debate. But, so again, not the Muslims that are the problem. It's an idea. I'm very critical of an idea, and I think most Muslims need freeing from Islam. They need freeing from slavery. But they need, first and foremost, they need to understand that they're slaves. But that's impossible to do when you have an ideology which prohibits any criticism of it. Muhammad cannot criticize, you cannot question this way of thinking. So you have people completely blindly, I'll give you another example. I was in Luton police station, I videoed all of it. I had this man and this woman who were lovely gentleman and woman who were Muslim, and they were actually in the police station because her family were trying to kill them because they were together. Now, they started about this isn't, and the hatred, it's not Islam. I asked them about the Quran, and neither of them have even read the Quran. So I said, you just leapt into the defense of something based on blindness, based on being told that you must defend Islam, even when you don't know what you're defending. The very reason you're sitting in this police station now and you're hiding for your life is due to the teachings of Islam. But you don't even understand that. So
that's something, folks, that is so important for you to understand, is that Tommy is speaking out against the Islamization or the process of a particular area becoming more Islamized as Islam grows. Now, again, Islam's the religion, Muslims are the people. I love Muslims. This ABN is in Michigan. I was out at a lake the other day. I met a Muslim man, and he had 4 daughters and 2 sons, and the girls were completely covered up, and they're the most beautiful children, you know. And I started a conversation with him. Today we were in a store. A Muslim lady with a hijab started a conversation, had a great conversation. Like Tommy said, a lot of Muslims are great people, but they're great people in spite of what the religion teaches, not because of what the religion teaches. Definitely, there are Muslims out there who actually think Islam is a religion of peace, and if they tell you that, they probably aren't lying. They probably truly believe that. But as Tommy said, and as we have said multiple times this week, a lot of Muslims have never read even the Quran. Many of them don't really understand Arabic. They just memorize enough in order to say the daily prayers. But the Quran was originally an oral recitation. It wasn't meant to be a book, so it's more about just memorizing and reciting and following the 5 pillars and hoping that you're good enough and you do more good than bad. But the Muslims out there who are actually saying, what did Muhammad do? Because that's exactly what I want to do. That's where these problems come in. And Tommy and I are both on Facebook, so feel free to send us a friend request, and either one of us would be more than happy, whether you're a Muslim or a non-Muslim, to give you a list of books to read. If you are a Muslim and you've never read, say, the Hadith, the things that Muhammad said and did and approved of, we would love to send you the titles to look up, to get them. Look it up for yourself. We have seen that many Muslims who have not read the primary sources, and then they have this cognitive dissonance going on, because they're like, okay, well, I think this is true, but I don't like this. I don't like what I'm reading here. So what can I do? I can leave Islam, or I can just stay where I'm at and hope that just following the 5 pillars is enough, or I can become more devout because this is the man I'm looking to. This is what he did. Well, I guess I should do it too. There's only 3 things that Muslims can do, is either be devout or be nominal, or just kind of say, okay, just kind of play it by ear each day of their life. But the thing is, Tommy, is that if the UK becomes more Islamized, or if the US, say, were to come under Sharia someday, what are the chances of all those nominal Muslims all of a sudden leaving Islam, saying, oh, well, I don't want to be part of this then? It's like if your country came under Sharia as a whole, where are these nominal Muslims going to go? Are they going to leave Islam and all of a sudden face the same consequences as non-Muslims, or are they going to become more devout, thinking, well, that's my only way to survive, really?
Are these Muslims, when they become a majority, that's what I keep asking people, because they are still a but that will change very quickly. When they become a majority, are they going to be as nice and protected to us as we've been to them? Are they? We simply cannot rely on Muslims to solve this problem. That's the reality. Which I said again to this gentleman on the train. If you guys were stopping it, if you're talking to me and you have these views, if you were stopping this in some way, I said, but I'm sorry, but you are irrelevant. You are irrelevant in what we need to do to protect our freedom, to protect our culture, and protect our country. You as individual Muslims become completely irrelevant. And I'm sorry about that, but we have to do what we have to do. And thankfully, I think people are watching. I know I usually talk quite depressing about what the future holds, because I do see us in a huge struggle coming. But I think things are slowly turning across the world politically. People are understanding, people are rising, people are saying things now that they weren't saying years ago. People are understanding. I can see by the amount of people who are commenting and judging who now learn and understand what Islam is on the non-Muslim perspective. So that's what I see my role as. I see my role as an individual, as an Englishman, as a father, is to highlight the problem that we face and to give a warning to people to say, listen, here I am. I've lived in a town and I've lived in areas that are predominantly Muslim. I know what it's like. You don't have to think what it's going to be like. I know the hostility you're going to face. I know the oppression you're going to face. I know the treatment your women are going to receive. And all of it based on religious belief, not based on racism, religious belief. Because in my town as well, you have to understand that Luton is a town of every single community. St. Lucians, Jamaicans, Polish, Bulgarians. We've got everyone. A big melting pot. Now, we've never had racial divisions, never. So I look to America, I don't really understand the racial politics there because we don't have that. Black and white, like this. That's it. That's where I'm from. We've never had it. So that's what people. But this Islam is completely different. So I've learned it through growing up. I've watched every experiment. I've watched it all. There's a complete divide. It's like oil and water. And when you understand that, if our leaders are sitting there thinking about this, or they can't comprehend it, what do you do when you've got 3 or 4 million Muslims, which we have now in the UK, and they're not going to integrate? They're simply not going to. They're not going to assimilate. Their demographic is going to change at 10 times faster than ours. Their call for Sharia and their whispers for Sharia are going to become one almighty roar in the future. What do you do? That's the position our government are in. They've let it get into such a position. And why have they let it get into such a position? Maybe due to the influence Saudi Arabia's financial dollars have in our stock market, in our business, in our infrastructure, the spread of Wahhabism, the spread of madrasas, all these different things. What do you do? That's the problem we face. Now, you have politicians such as Geert Wilders, Marine Le Pen. These people will start to de-Islamify their countries now, when they are elected. Now, when they do that, that's when a war will start. Because the Islamic community in the UK, simply, in the UK, if you tried to even ban the burqa, you might as well just ask for a war. Because they're not going to let you. The police are not going to be able to do that. There is no way the police can enforce the laws we have now. We have had 7,000 young girls, female genital mutilation, every single year. It's been illegal in the UK for 30 years. We've not had one single prosecution. Young children are having their clitorises cut off, and not one single person has been prosecuted. That is simply because we have a community that you cannot police. And that's already now. So what you have to understand is the army would be needed eventually when we head to this position, which we are going to go to in Europe. It's not scaremongering. This is where we're heading. It doesn't lead pretty sight, and it's not going to be good. And that's not going to be good for any of us. And none of us want it, but simply we must start to definitely enforce the law, definitely start to try and enforce laws that are going to stop the spread of Islam. And when you spoke earlier, one thing you nailed there is when you have a country which has lost its belief, and I don't say this, many people who say they're not Christian anymore in the UK, when you have a country, you've lost your belief, your culture, your own pride in who you are, you then have a very powerful vacuum filler, which is Islam, which gives them all the things they've lost. Here is who you are. Here is your identity. You have power with us. This is what you belong to. And the truth is, they know who they are, they know where they're going, and they know what they want. Yeah. And we've created a complete system and a generation in the UK and across Europe of people who don't even know where they come from. Yeah. They don't even know anything about their history. Yeah. And they don't care. So that's why you have such a huge level now of English men converting to Islam. And it's because what we're offering them on the opposition is nothing. Yeah. And that's simply because of our government and a brainwashing in our education system, which has taught our generation. You have young children now, which I look at them as young white English children who have got their heads down. Yeah. They've got their heads down, and they should have their heads up to who they are. They should have pride in who they are, belief in who they are, and they should be proud of where they come from. They come from one of the best cultures, and they're blessed to be from one of the best countries in the world. And but we're not brought up with that anymore. So you're right in something. That's why I picked up on what you said earlier. Islam is filling that in the UK, and until we match it, until you install that pride back in those British lads, we've got a real struggle.
Yeah, and folks, I want you to know, if you can't hear it in Tommy's voice and in my voice, we don't hate Muslims whatsoever. We see Muslims as human beings made in the image of God who have intrinsic value, just like every other human. What sets Islam apart from every other man-made religion out there is that it's a religio-political system, a religion and a political ideology combined. As long as Muslims just follow their religion and live peacefully, and as we know, a lot of Muslims just live their lives. They want to raise their children. They don't try to impose Islam on other people. Great people. But the problem is that when you have the Muslims who have a mindset closer to Muhammad, who created the first Islamic state, I'm not referring to ISIS, but just the first religio-political system, when you become a Muslim, you are becoming part of the Ummah, the worldwide Muslim community. And because it is a political ideology and a religion combined, when you leave Islam, that's why you're committing treason. And what is the consequence for committing treason and leaving Islam? It's death if you live in any country that is under Sharia. You are you're leaving your religion, and you're living and disobeying the government in a sense, because it's a political ideology and a religion. Here in America, we still have separation of church and state. We have the freedom of speech. Americans, you need to listen to this, everything that Tommy is saying, and watch the last show and share it with other people, because if America continues to move the way it's moving, I mean, we either have to turn around now, or we're going to be following in the footsteps of the UK. Because at the base of the religion of Islam, it's also a political ideology. That's why they begin to take over once the population grows. Now, Tommy, you talked about in your book how you've had to plead guilty just to protect your wife and your kids. You've been put in prison, not in a completely separate cell block than people who want to hurt you, but like right next door. Or you've had people who have tried to hurt you in prison. You go into that in your book, so we don't need to talk about that. And we only have 6 minutes left in the show anyway, but I encourage people to pick up your book. Now, Tommy, one of the recent headlines is what has happened to Anjem Chowdhury and what he's facing now as a man who supported ISIS. So I want to ask you if you ever had any interaction with Anjem.
With Anjem's group, I have plenty. So a lot of Anjem's number 2, many of them that have just been sentenced with him are from my hometown. Yeah? Okay. One of the lads who just got done for terrorism, one of the other ISIS lads, he was 2 years above me at school. Roger, the main ginger convert, I used to hang around with him as a child. Yeah. But yeah, so I know them all inside out. Now, Anjem Chowdhury was an honest Muslim. Yeah, he's honest. Mm-hmm. Now, I applaud him for his honesty, because Anjem doesn't scare me or worry me. The Muslims that scare me and worry me are the ones that have exactly the same views and beliefs as Anjem, but they're sitting cuddling our politicians. Yeah, right. And they've infiltrated the system. Right. And they're smiling and nodding and making all the right sound notes in order to further their goal. Like we have a Sadiq Khan as our Muslim mayor. These different people have risen to power. And then when they get in their power, slowly chip, they take away and they install their beliefs. Yeah. They're the people that worry me. when you look at our justice system, Anjem Choudhury just got sentenced to 5.5 years in prison.
Yeah.
He's responsible for the radicalisation of 60% of the Muslims in prison on terrorism charges in the UK. Mm-hmm. My friend got 6 years in prison for having a fight at football. So when you look at the two, and it's hard to swallow that our government, who want to keep saying we're going to crush this ideology, we're going to attack this violent interpretation of Islam, and then we see nothing. Since David Cameron stood on national TV and set up a government task force after the beheading of a soldier, Lee Rigby, since he did that, they've allowed 2,000 British Muslims to fly out and fight for ISIS and train. And we've got 450 of them back, some of them walking around the streets around the corner from my house.
Now, Tommy, you talk about...
It's frustrating to hear government leaders make sound notes and sound bites when it's coming to when it's coming to political matters, and it's coming up to, like you've got now, huge elections. They say things, they do things, they make noises. We don't need noises, we need action. Yeah. In America, you need action. You need someone who's going to be brave and fearless and courageous, and who's going to lead you out of this, and who's going to dare to speak out and dare to tackle and make decisions and say things that people don't want to hear. Yeah. But they need to be said and done. Yeah. To protect the future and protect your culture and where you're from, these brave things and brave decisions need to be made, and that's the position we're at in history. And some people are going to have to step up and do it.
Well, Tommy, it may take you and your voice screaming this way from the UK to wake people up over here. So it's a blessing to have you on. And like I said, you guys need to watch his last show because that had a lot of material in there as well. Now, you keep talking about radical Islam. Anjem was an honest Muslim, but you would also call him a radical. People need to understand the word radical has a negative connotation attached to it, but the word radical just means to go back to the root. So someone says, oh, radical Islam is just as bad as radical Christianity. Well, no, because radical Christians look to Jesus and what he said to do. A radical Muslim looks to Muhammad and does what he said to do. So being radical is a good thing if it's a good thing that you're radical about. But if you're radical about a bad thing, well, then being radical is going to be a bad thing. But you also use the terms Wahhabism and Salafism. We mentioned quickly in the last show that Wahhabism is referring to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who wasn't even born until 1702 or 1703, one of the two. So you cannot blame anything that happened before then on Wahhab, because he wasn't even born yet. But he looked to Ibn Taymiyyah, who lived 500 years before him, and what did he do? He said, look, this other stuff's coming into Islam, get it out of here. Let's look to the Prophet, and let's look to the book. So Wahhab was a reformer, a going back reformer. Let's go back to the time of Muhammad. Just like Ibn Taymiyyah, who looked to the early jurists, who came up with the four most popular schools of Islamic jurisprudence. So a Salafi is people who look to Muhammad and the first three generations of Muslims being the perfect Muslims, the perfect examples. So all Wahhabis are Salafis, but not all Salafis are Wahhabis. Because if you had a Salafi living in, say, the year 1400, well, he couldn't have been a Wahhabi because Wahhabi wasn't born for another 300 years. But Salafism, that is looking to Muhammad. So when we say radical Islam, that just means true Islam. And I know a lot of people who appreciate, they don't obviously like Anjem and what he does, but they appreciate, just like you said, he's honest. He actually says, this is what Islam teaches. So your nominal Muslim neighbor who you love does not define Islam. Muhammad defined it 1,400 years ago, and the Muslims who follow Muhammad are the Salafis. They're the most devout people out there. Now, Christians, this is a wake-up call for you, because you should be reaching out to all people to share the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ, but also with your Muslim neighbors. You know, I get frustrated, my friend gets frustrated, a lot of Christians who are focused on reaching Muslims get frustrated because so many people think of Muslims as the enemy. I don't want to talk to them. Well, if you leave them alone, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. We need to engage them, give them the New Testament, which many of them haven't read, share the gospel, which many of them have never heard, because it's the gospel is the power of God unto salvation. The greatest problem in the world is not radical Islam, it's nominal Christianity. And Christians need to be out sharing the gospel with their Muslim neighbors because we should care about them, we should love them, and as long as they're practicing their religion peacefully, then what Tommy is facing in the UK will not happen where you are. But if Muslims begin to look to the Prophet and do exactly what he said to do, and they see Islam as a political ideology in addition to a religion, that's when what the UK is facing comes into effect. That's when it comes into existence. Tommy has said, hey, in the last show, he talked about what life was like growing up and what it's like now. And Tommy, how many more mosques are there now than there were when you were growing up?
So when I was born, there was one 30 years ago. Now there's over 20. There's 25 last time I checked. There's probably 28 now. That's in my hometown. So to the people who think it can't happen, if you'd have said to people in Luton 30 years ago, in 30 years' time, you'd have 28 mosques. Every single restaurant would be halal. They'd be calling Christmas Winterval. They'd be banning the emblem of St. George on St. George's Day. Everyone would have said that will never happen here. 30 years on, that's where we're at. So if you're sitting there thinking, that won't happen in America, that's not going to happen to us. Yeah, well, we fought.
Here in America, we're moving closer to that empty vacuum that's going to be filled by somebody. It's going to be filled by somebody who has a worldview. The thing is what worldview are they going to hold? What religion are they going to follow? Is that going to be filled by a group of people who have a worldview that is based on a religio-political system? Or what are the chances of America becoming re-Christianized? We, just like Tommy is one man in the UK who's speaking out, we Christians in the US need to be sharing the gospel. Muslims are very smart in that they are not going to leave Islam and become an atheist. At least not most of them will not. They know that the universe and our existence doesn't make sense without a creator. There's definitely a creator. There is a God and there is Jesus Christ, but Muslims have a wrong view of God, a wrong view of Jesus Christ. Now, that's why the gospel is so important, that Jesus died according to our sins, that he was buried, that he rose from the dead 3 days later, and that he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Now, Tommy, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say whatever you want to say. This is your time to tell the U.S. and tell the world whatever you think they need to hear.
You have an opportunity. All of you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity that in history, I look back in history, what our forefathers would have done. You know what your history is in America. This is your moment to prevent it, to step forward at a time when you can prevent it, when it's still at a level where you don't have to see so much murder, death and destruction. Do not allow that to happen, because the same warning we have in Europe to Germany, don't let your country be dragged back into death and destruction. That's what's going to happen there. That's what's going to happen to Europe. And if I sound aggressive when I'm doing this, I'm not. I'm emotional, and it's a plea. It's a plea to your country to wake up, take a grip of your country, take a grip of your culture, and fight the Islamization of America. Because the same way they've infiltrated my country, they're right busy now infiltrating yours in every single system, from government, from prisons, from education. Everything is being adapted for them.
So folks, fight Islamization, but love your Muslim neighbor, because like Tommy and I both said, a lot of them are great people, and we should be reaching out to them, we should be loving them, and we should be sharing the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ with them as well. Tommy Robinson, this was part 2 for your appearances here on the Trinity channel. I definitely want to have you back a third time for part 3. And I encourage folks to look up the recent video, Tommy Robinson Children, on YouTube. Tommy, tell people your website, where they can find you.
So my website's currently down because everything gets hacked.
Everything gets hacked.
You can find me on Twitter. Just find me on Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. I'm going to delete my life to concentrate on Twitter.
Find him on Twitter. Follow him on Facebook. And friends, pick up his book. This is available on Amazon in Kindle version, if nothing else. I believe it's $9.99. This is Tommy's story. You're going to get 325 pages of this kind of content that you're hearing Tommy talk about on this show. So pick this up. Check out the Trinity Channel's YouTube channel for the Islamization of the United Kingdom. We had Nani Darwish as a guest on that show as well. We love her. She was great. And Tommy, it's great to have you back once again. Just like I said last time, we could do a 2 or 3 hour show if we had the time, but we have 2 more shows that we need to do tonight. We have what happened at the Council of Nicaea, and also what is God like? 2 shows that many people need to hear, whether you are a Christian, a Muslim, or anything else that you consider yourself. So Tommy, brother, we love you. Thank you so much for being on. We'll definitely be in touch online. We'll be talking more. Folks, pick up his book, support Tommy. Let's keep the hard copies sold out and keep buying the digital ebooks as well. Tommy, thank you so much, brother. You have a good night. I'll talk with you soon.
Good night. Cheers. God bless.
Folks, thank you so much. We'll be back in just about 25 minutes for our next show. In the meantime, look up Tommy's book on Amazon, pick it up, and go to the YouTube channel and save in your bookmarks. Save it as a favorite. The Islamization of the United Kingdom, that needs to be viewed by you and shared with all of your neighbors, saying, hey, even if this doesn't come to happen here, this is what some people in the world are facing right now. So we need to let people know, get people informed, and then people can make informed decisions wherever they live when new voting processes come up, which will affect the future of the world and the future where you are. And we thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you, and we will see you soon.
I want to talk to you today about a very serious matter, saving our civilization. I'm standing here in the studios at ABN, which is a Christian broadcast station, but it is much more than that. We need not only to save souls, but to save our civilization. There are very few voices left in America which speak the truth, in particular the truth about Islam. This station is devoted to speaking the truth of Islam, and it, as I say, it goes beyond salvation. I'm standing here in front of cameras and a set, and all of this takes money in a battle for our civilization. I study history, and it is interesting that I love to study the history of the early church, and we find that the early church was not only about the salvation of souls, but it was also about creating a new civilization. And today that civilization is under attack by Islam, and this station tries to defend our civilization. So I need for you to understand that this cannot be done for free. The Saudis pump an endless amount of money into the spread of Islam here in America and throughout the world, and we need to depend on people like you to contribute to the efforts here at ABN, not only to save souls, but to save our civilization. Think about what I'm telling you. A matter does not become more serious than this. So reach deep into your heart and give what you can. Give to save not only souls, but a civilization that we live in. Thank you.